Welcome to the Home Studio Hangout podcast, where we explore what it's like building, running, and working out of a home studio with your hosts, Joshua Matotek, Andrew Simmons, and many guests in different areas of the music industry.
And welcome back to the Home Studio Hangout podcast. Today, I am your host, Drew. Today, I am with my friend, normally from Atlanta, but currently sitting poolside, Chris Bowman.
What is going on?
Just straight chilling.
Dude, I am. It's a vibe.
Yeah.
It is a vibe right now.
It's a vibe. Yeah. Just straight chilling. Chris, where are you? Why aren't you in Atlanta?
I am hanging out in Orlando right now. I'm with the Word Alive. We're getting ready to do the Rockville pre-party. They have Welcome to Rockville in Daytona. It's going to be like Thursday through Sunday. So
sick. Yeah, and Chris me and Chris have been doing stuff a lot together, but Chris is a engineer in his own right, producer in his own right, but also a fantastic front of house engineer, and has been brought out a lot recently by a bunch of different cool bands and artists, and has really taken off in the front of house world in the last, what would you say, like 2 years?
Yeah, I mean,
3 years?
This is my second year of touring. And yeah, last year I was out a lot. This year I'm kind of trying to choose my battles a little bit more wisely. But you know, hanging out with a lot of the same bands. My main guys are the Word Alive, the Deer Hunter, and recently I picked up a band called Beach Weather. They do like more of like a pop rock kind of thing, and yeah. So I'm like, you know, I bounce back and forth between those guys as long as the schedule works, and then if other things happen to come across the email that seem dope and will work out schedule wise, I'm usually down to do those too.
Yeah, for sure. No, and so one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on was me and you, we talk pretty regularly, at least once a week.
That's
I
true.
would say. But we always have fun conversations, and I feel like they should just be podcast episodes.
Fair.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring you on to talk about like what you see as a newer person in the live music industry, and how you kind of got started in the live music industry. I'll give a little precursor for you. So Chris is still an engineer, like studio engineer. Me and him did a bunch of cool work together. We worked on a James Tucker record that did very, very well. Just crossed, what was it, like 4 million or something like that? It was nuts.
It's I don't know. It's definitely a couple million, and
yeah,
it's cool to be a part of.
And then we did a bunch of other like indie things that have never seen the light of day. And Chris got a cool opportunity to track some microwave stuff for a live acoustic session. So he knows his way around the studio aspect. And I think we've known each other for, golly, dude, what, like 6
years now? Point? Yeah, dude.
Daggum. Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Same time I met Davis. Me and you kind of met a little bit before them, but like we met in person the same day we met Davis.
Yes.
And got lunch with Brian.
Oh yeah, at NAMM. Oh man, that feels like it was NAMM, so long
in
ago.
Nashville. I know.
NAMM, Nashville.
I was thinking about that the other day. Yeah.
It really wasn't that long ago, but it feels like it was a lifetime ago.
Yeah, I know. But so we kind of got together then and started doing projects and stuff together. But it was really cool to see you pivot like you wanted to do, you kind of got into front of house work by starting at the Masquerade. So let's kind of start there and talk about your, I guess it maybe even before then, you kind of started doing some, getting into some of this stuff, working at, what was it?
I was,
It wasn't Musician's Friend.
no, it was,
Sam
yeah, I was
Ash.
working at Sam Ash, and I was getting tired of dealing with people. I just wanted to, do the thing. And
Yeah.
I wound up picking up a gig at this country bar, kind of in like northern Georgia, and I would do 1 or 2 nights a week, doing like bar bands from 7 to midnight, and it wasn't the most glamorous thing, but it was able to
Yeah.
just teach me a lot about how to make less than ideal situations sound as good as they can. And eventually, I heard that they were looking for engineers at the Masquerade, which it's been one of my favorite clubs since I moved to Atlanta. And all the bands that I enjoy listening to, for the most part, travel through there. And yeah, I basically told them that I knew what I was doing, even though I didn't really. Even though I didn't really.
That's the story. That's the story of our life, dude.
And and then
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, and then I had to figure it out. So I had a couple of shows that they weren't super rad, but I was able to like figure out what you need to do to make shows run well. It's more than just like mixing, interfacing with the people coming through, making sure everybody has what they need. And yeah, I just started really enjoying that and kind of dove headfirst into doing a good job, as good of a job as I can doing that.
Yeah, and then you kind of worked your way up through the rooms as well. So for those that don't know, the Masquerade has 3 rooms. They have smallest room is Purgatory. That's what, like a 250
300
cap, 300 cap, and then Hell is the second room, and they just expanded that one.
It's like
I
700
want to say
now.
to like 600 or 700 now. Yeah, but at the time it was like 5 or 550 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they have the biggest room, Heaven, which is like 12, right?
15.
15,
Yeah.
dang. I didn't realize it was that
We
big.
could do 1,000 on the floor, I think, if they all squeeze in, or maybe it's 900 on the floor and then the rest up top. But yeah.
Yeah, that feels right. Feels right. Fire code wise, yeah, that feels right. But so Chris, you kind of worked your way up through. You started in like doing Purgatory and some Hell shows, and they kind of started you there, and then you kind of worked your way up, from what I remember, right?
Yeah, I wound up getting to a spot where they needed like a monitor guy in Heaven pretty much all the time. And I wanted to be a good monitor engineer. And for me, that's like the perfect way to actually interface with bands, because you're on stage actually asking the band what they want to listen to. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a different vibe, but I definitely think that like having that monitor experience and meeting the people that I met, I mean, that definitely helped get me on the road. Because you wind up working with some of the same crews that come in. They're out month after month, but with different bands, but you see the same faces. Yeah.
Yeah, same front of house, same lighting designers, same tour managers, that kind of situation. And sometimes even the same like fill-ins, like you'll have a guitarist or something fill in for a band, and then when they come back with their band, like the next month or something, like you'll see them again and get the touch base.
Yep.
So what is the, if you had to say, like, what was the biggest takeaway from that time period? So we'll kind of start there. And like, what was your biggest knowledge, like, gains?
Biggest knowledge gains.
Yep.
I mean, most of it, I feel like would center around just understanding what the role is, and
Mm-hmm.
really just like knowing how to communicate effectively with people that you've never met before.
For sure.
All
And
the yeah.
and also what it kind of looks like to actually tour, because like tour on that scale, you know what I mean? Because like I feel like me and you've both done the 15 passenger or hop in a car, cram everything in, and like go for like a drive down the coast kind of tours.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? But touring at like a more professional level, the way you do things just looks different.
Yeah, and but I mean, I feel like a lot of that just has to do with considerations that you need to be making for everybody, involved
Mm-hmm.
in the show. It's not just about your band playing your set. Like that's part of it, but it's just a small part of the
Yeah.
big picture.
Yeah. Well, okay. So on that, what are some considerations that you think that bands generally don't do that you think would, even at a smaller level, just level up their touring experience?
Uh, so I definitely have seen bands come through, younger bands that have like really well put together rigs. And honestly, I feel like people need to try to make life easier for themselves. Try to keep everything in one location off of like one power source if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Try to have all the cables coming to and from that one spot. Just like figuring out how to consolidate and, visualizing what your setup is supposed to look like and coming up with like the easiest way to put it together. Super
Mm-hmm.
valuable,
So
super valuable
stage
skill.
plot,
Yeah.
and then like I think with with the Word Alive, you guys have like a rack with everybody's stuff in it, right?
So yeah, the tour rig is two rolling racks for like 24 units, I think. Pretty big boys. And one
Yeah.
of them holds like all of the IEMs and their monitor rig on stage, their splitter, and then the other rack has all of like the guitar stuff, guitar wireless, quad cortex, and one thing that I would like to do with them actually is combine both of those racks into like one double wide rack where all of that stuff is wired in together. That's like the next step of
Mm-hmm.
our thing. I mean, I'm always trying to
Yeah,
to do that. So, little by little,
for
we're getting
sure.
there too.
Yeah, for sure. But I think even in a smaller band could do, if they're running DI, let's say they're trying to only play like small clubs, which should be the goal, ideally. This is assuming they're not playing a bunch of house shows. We're gonna run a lot of DI stuff, try to consolidate everything down into one rack, maybe even use like, I think you guys use an X32, right? The X32 rack?
M32C.
Or did you
Yeah,
the M32?
yeah,
Yeah, that's right. You
the
switched.
X32 had been in service for so many years and was starting to fall apart. So it
Yeah.
was time.
But yeah, like M32 rack, or if you can't afford that, an X32 rack, or honestly, if you're a smallish band and you can't even afford that, like an X16 does a similar job. As long as it gives the amount of inputs and outputs that you need, it helps consolidate.
Absolutely.
So what about as far as interacting with, because you've been venue side
Uh-huh.
and now you've been tour package
Uh-huh.
side. How can either future front of house people that are working for a venue interact better with the tour package, and vice versa? How can bands better interact with the venue staff?
It's literally all about communication. And, it's like when I'm working at home, I make it a point to introduce myself to people as they're coming through, let them know what I'm doing for the day. Usually like if I'm working at home, we'll have like an advanced packet that we can look at, and it'll have all the stage plots and input lists and stuff like that, all the considerations that they have.
Mm-hmm.
That way we're like minimizing
At the masquerade.
exactly. That way we're minimizing questions, and we're just getting to like, all right, this is what you need. Cool. I'm going to stand by. If you want me to help you set up, I'll do that. If you want me to just be on standby, if you need anything, I'll do that too. Everybody's needs are different on the road. When I'm touring, I'm always sending out my advances with like very specific. This is what I have. I need, this amount of power at front of house. I need this amount of power on stage. I need it in these locations, and like that's it. Just trying to like minimize the questions. That way we're walking in. Hey, what's going on? I'm Chris. Let's have a good day. I could just throw my stuff together. I'm like the bands that I'm with are usually we're self-contained, so we're coming in with our own mic packages and mic stands and XLRs and all that stuff. And like, we're literally just like, where do we plug in?
Mm-hmm.
And we do our show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. So I think there's a good place to pick up. So you were there at the masquerade for a year and a half, if I remember correctly.
No, it's like 3 months.
Was it? I thought it was longer than that.
I started in September, and then I was on the road in January.
Really?
Yeah.
Dadgum. It was way shorter than I thought. Yeah. So you started picking up all of this stuff, and you got taken out on the road, or you picked up a road gig, your first like tour gig.
Yeah.
So what did it look like for you? And I guess you can talk about being on the road and transitioning from being primarily at the masquerade at a venue that's pretty consistent to moving to being on the road. And like, you can talk about, what bands you've kind of worked with since then.
Okay. Well, my first experience on the road was kind of a doozy, and I don't feel like throwing people under the bus, so I'm going to leave band names out as much as possible. But it was
that's fine.
It was a legacy metalcore band, and they were doing like a 10-year something, and we were not in the kind of venues that the masquerade is like. We were doing bars and stuff like that, and it was not the most fun. It was not great rooms and just not great travel conditions, but you still have to make the best of it anyway. So, it's like cutting your teeth on systems that literally suck and getting something out of them that sounds like halfway okay. And then, the job gets so much easier when you get into larger rooms. Like the bigger the PA, the easier it is to actually do front of house stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, dude, it was rough. I did not really have a good time. I felt like I learned a lot, but I wasn't really sure if it was what I wanted to do. And then after that, I was back home working for about a month or so, and I got a call to do The Word Alive. And then kind of from there, it's been The Word Alive, it's been Deer Hunter, it's been Silent Planet and Currents and Avoid, and always moving into something that's just a little bit outside of the comfort zone, and always learning something new, working with a different band, whether it's like the way that somebody has their guitar set up, or the way that a vocalist is actually like their vocal technique into the mic versus somebody else's technique. Like everything is different, and to me, it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to
when you have different drummers, and like working with Alex from Silent Planet versus other drummers are a very different thing.
Yeah, Alex is a monster.
Beats the crap out.
in the
Alex
best
beats
in
the
the
crap out of his in the
in the
best
best
way.
way though. In the best way. Like
Yeah.
I feel like yeah, I don't know. He's just a very insanely in the pocket, just gnarly drummer, and that was a treat.
Oh, and you got to try some, because I remember you telling me you were trying some new stuff on that when you were doing more stuff with them, like more consistently. Like you learned, uh, what was it, some gating tricks or something like that because of the style of music, because so you could heavily compress and like, and I'm sure stuff like that has changed, but like being able to try different techniques with different people because of different abilities that people have kind of levels you up in a different way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's to me it's kind of cool when you can sit down with the same set for any sort of extended period of time and kind of figure out um, what the band is doing that allows you to do the moves that you're making. And I definitely enjoy mixing drums. So yeah, I mean it's like a combination of doing like side chain filters where I'm just like compressing or opening a gate when a certain frequency threshold is being met. Then I move to like just a side chain gate with a trigger. So you have like the trigger opening the gate for the toms, and that introduces like a completely different sound, So, and then kind of experimenting with that, like the click of a tom gate opening to me is very pleasant. So instead of EQing high end into toms, kind of just let the gate click be the attack sound of the tom itself, and then just let the tom do its thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's like it's not like anything. It's not like a make or break. This is how you have the
Yeah.
best drums, but just kind of like figuring out what you like and what works versus what doesn't.
I think I remember you calling me after almost every single run, maybe even in the middle of runs, and being like, dude, I figured this thing out. Dude, I figured this thing out.
But like, I mean,
Whereas,
it's literally though. I'm still really new to this world. This is my second year
mhm.
out, and I'm still trying to figure stuff out. And yeah, every now and then I'll think about something that I've done in the studio, and I try to figure out how to make it work on the console. And yeah, it's like I get fucking stoked when I'm able to
Yeah,
have
yeah,
like
yeah.
the same workflow that I'm used to on something that I'm bringing around with me all the time.
Well, and I think that's a good point to highlight. So, what do you think is the similarities and major differences between like doing studio engineering work and doing live engineering work?
Um, so you have way more time in the studio in general to like get
Hmm.
get things the way that you want them to be. Whether that's like you setting up a guitar again and tuning it again to make sure that it's like if it's perfectly in tune on the chords that sometimes sound weird or whatever, or like
Hmm.
reskinning the drums and stuff like that. You don't really have the opportunity to do anything like that uh, in the live world. And I don't know. I kind of like it though. It's like a challenge. Every room has its own like character, and also every PA is going to be a little different. And you get in, and you're basically like you listen to the system, and then you kind of just figure out how you're going to make your what you already have going on fit into this like new system. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I don't like remix my show every day. Like I'm literally rolling in, I'm listening to the PA, making adjustments that fit the way my mix typically works based on how I feel that room sounds, and then I'm just letting it rip. And you can't even really make adjustments until people are in the room because that makes a big difference too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. And how many shows do you think it gets you to get to the point where you're like, I'm feeling good?
Man, I'll let you know when I get there. um, Dude, I mean, honestly, I don't know. I definitely have some shows where I'm like, all right, I know what's going down. This is rad. And it's like you could have like the best show of your life and then walk into a situation that makes it not that the next day. Um,
Yeah.
you know, so I try to give every day 100%, and you kind of just move on from there. That's like the other cool thing about live show. It's like bad show, it's over that night and whatever.
Hmm.
If you have a bad recording out in the world or something like that,
It lives forever.
you missed a note when you were tuning the vocals, and
Yeah.
that thing is flat forever, baby.
Yep.
Um, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. No. So what would you say is like if because I think people overlook the live music industry in like the I want to be a full time in music conversation.
Yeah.
Uh how has that shifted your mindset a little bit
Dude.
from, doing it?
Yeah, I mean, so it is different, and I know for sure for a while. I mean, like the every studio engineer's worst nightmare is being a live sound engineer or whatever.
Yeah.
And uh, I don't know. I never really dreaded it. I actually don't think I enjoyed the concert experience as much until I started doing it and like, started to figure out what makes people vibe outside of them listening to their favorite artist in a room that they're both in together. And
For sure.
there's a lot of magic, in that. There's always like if you're a people watcher like I am, I definitely enjoy, looking at the crowd and, oh man, she's crying to this song. She had a bad day or whatever, but you know what? They're all here
Hmm.
and they're healing or whatever and having a good time. They're all here
Yeah.
to listen to the artist, and making records is special. But like, I get to have that special night every night for like, a month or 6 weeks or whatever,
Hmm.
and it's really cool.
That's really sick. Yeah, that's true. So, would you suggest the route that you took to somebody who is like, I'm interested in doing front of house, or I want to maybe do front of house on the side while I'm doing studio work and kind of dip my toe? Would you suggest the route that you took, or what route would you suggest?
I mean, absolutely. If you're just trying to be a well-rounded engineer, I think being able to look at it from both sides of the ball is a good thing to do. To be honest, being front of house, that wasn't anything that I ever really had like in the cards. It was just something that I started doing that I wound up enjoying way more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think that could happen a lot more if people
probably
dip the toe into it. You know what I mean?
probably so. I mean, yeah. There's a lot of kind of nonsense that happens when you're doing bars and stuff like that.
Sure.
And but I also think that that's like the best way to just get
Yeah.
all of the experience that you need. That way when you're hanging out at the clubs and stuff like that, you kind of already know what to expect. You've seen most of what is to
Yeah.
come.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's like you honestly find that the more you move up, the nicer people are. And in general, I don't. I've only ever had one bad experience with an artist in like and only one bad experience with a venue touring. So, I feel like we have good people out here who are trying to do their best for their city, and
Yeah.
I'm definitely going back to the masquerade with notes that I get from whatever this venue is doing that I thought was really cool that I think we should do or could do.
For
It's
sure.
yeah.
Well, and I think for somebody who's like younger and they're like, I want to do music or live music or something like that, I think that the live music industry right now is booming, but also needs people.
For sure. Yes. I
So
was
now's
way
a
too
great
busy,
time to get in.
way too busy last year. Still pretty busy this
Yeah.
year, and actually could use help for stuff that's happening later on in the year. So, I don't know. Am I allowed to be like, yo, if you know anybody, or if you're watching this and you're interested, hit me up and
Yeah.
we'll figure something
No,
out.
for sure. For sure. No, yeah, for sure. And I think, well, especially if you've already put in the work some, but I think if you haven't, or if you want to learn, especially if you're in the Atlanta area, I already know that you've been looking for people to cover masquerade stuff, like get
All the time.
involved. If you're in a large city or even a mid-sized city, like where I'm at in Greenville, there's like 200 to 300 cap clubs that I can guarantee need people.
Just find where the jams are at and go be a part of what's going on. It's not that, like, it's really just as
Especially
easy as showing up,
your
honestly.
genre.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Find if you're an acoustic artist, find like the acoustic like listening room or whatever where they're doing those folk singer songwriter things. Or if you're a country artist, like go find the country bars that are putting on country gigs and stuff, or the country venues. And like in Atlanta, the Masquerade does all of like the rock, indie, and metal music and some rap.
Yeah, we do
So
hip hop
you kind of
too. Get a whole bunch of stuff over there.
yeah. Exactly. So like it's kind of all over the place. So find the venue that kind of does what you enjoy and what you want to do, and then go be a part of it, be involved in it. And then if it's something that you really feel like you want to do, like try to get involved in some way, like Chris did, getting a job at the place, working
Where they do the thing.
Obviously it's not that easy, but it's not as easy as just like go get a job somewhere. It's a little harder than that. But sometimes in like smaller rooms, like you said, working at that bar for that bar gig for a while, taught you a lot and gave you at least enough knowledge to slide into a larger situation.
Enough confidence to slide into a larger situation, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and me and you both have this thing where we'll just say yes and figure it out. And I think there's a part of that is that FITFO is like big in the live industry.
FITFO? What is that? What does that mean?
Figure it the fuck out.
Oh shit! I didn't know that there was a thing for it. I like that.
Yeah.
The FITFO. Yeah, I definitely.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately and also fortunately, that's how I live most of my life. Yes, I kind of know how to do it. Really don't know how to do it at all, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah. But I feel like studio work's kind of that way too,
Oh, dude, I feel like any kind of work that you do is like that. If you're passionate enough about what it is you're doing, you're always going to find something new about the thing that you're doing. And,
yeah.
That's what I love. It's cool.
So, yeah. So what are you excited about right now with, like what front of house stuff? What's making you stoked right now?
I am stoked that I finally have a Midas Pro rig. I'm stoked that I'm stoked to be finally getting to a point with my rig where I'm able to bring out some fun toys, so to speak, and and just be a little bit more meticulous. The tech is so cool. I don't know, man. There's great tours coming up that aren't even announced yet. That I can't. I will announce them when they announce them. But
yeah,
there's some stuff happening later this year that I'm personally very excited about. It's just I'm just very grateful to be doing music and traveling, being able to have a podcast in a pool talking about something that I love to do with my homie.
For sure.
Yeah,
dude.
This is cool.
Yeah. What so let's get a little more nerdy and technical about this stuff. Uh you were telling me you do some interesting stuff with the way you do your buses. And I feel like I feel like it's really interesting because it's very different. But number two, I feel like some of this workflow could translate to a mixing workflow, like a studio mixing workflow, pretty well, actually, as far as creating some separation. It might, have to shift a little bit, but
I mean, yeah, most of the way I mix is based on a studio workflow. So I like to do group mixing is what it's called on the digital consoles, where I'm taking channels and routing them to buses, and now I have a layer of EQ and dynamics control on the channel strip, and then also like overall control for all of the items that I'm sending to the group. Before, I used to do like individual instrument groups, but now I've sort of changed in my approach, and instead of doing instrument groups, I'm doing groups based on the stereo image, essentially. So have like
hmm.
uh, a a group for mid, a group for sides.
Hmm.
I have a duck group, which is a side chain group, and I have certain elements of the mix going into this side chain group, and all of those things are getting out of the way of the vocal. Um, and it's just like,
So let's be super specific.
okay,
What's going in your mid group? What's going in your side group? What's going in your side chain?
uh,
Like very nerdy
all
specific.
right. So mid group is going to be any element that isn't a vocal that belongs in the center. So it would be like a bass. It would be any sort of like bass synth samples, stuff like that. Vocal group is pretty
Hmm.
self-explanatory. Now
Yeah.
the duck group is probably where like most of the confusion would happen. That's where all of like my side chain is going on. And in that group I have all of my cymbals, I have my guitars, I have my high synths, I have anything that would really like get in the way of the vocal. And then I have all of that stuff being sidechained to my vocal group. That way, when my vocal is wanting to sit out on top of everything, everything in that duck group sort of just moves out of the way by like a dB and a half, maybe two at most. And it's like the
Yeah.
goal isn't to like squash anything out of existence. It's literally just to like massage the spots where I would actually be like riding a fader.
You were talking about the way you process buses. So you were talking about what specifically the sidechain bus is your guitars and
Oh
your
yeah,
vocals.
guitars and cymbals and all of like the high mid, high end stuff that you want to not overpower your vocals.
And
Yeah.
is that stuff the same stuff? So are you sending them into because you said you had a mid and a side. Uh,
Right. So
so
sides is going to be like your bass tracks. Sides is going to be like we have a background vocal track that's stereo, so I throw that to the
gotcha.
sides. And then I also have for this band, um, we have like a stereo guitar track that isn't. It's not. It's not like what the actual live guitars are doing. It's like whatever's in the
Yeah.
recording that's like an ambience or like the
Yeah.
extra
Yeah.
stuff. So I'll throw that to the sides
Like
as
guitar
well.
effects.
Exactly. And yeah, so I'll throw that into the side bus. And then it's like from
Are those
there.
also getting side chained a little bit as well, or no?
So you're talking about like the guitar track, like that track
Yeah,
channel.
yeah, yeah. All of that track channel stuff getting like your side bus is it getting a little bit?
it's getting a dB, but it's not being fired off of the vocal bus. It's being fired off of the actual guitar tracks. So, like
Okay.
the stage left guitar side chains to the left side of that guitar track, and the stage right guitar will side chain to the right side of that guitar track, just a
So
little
that
bit.
way it prioritizes the live guitars
Exactly.
over the track stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. That's actually really, really sick, especially for live. It makes it feel more like in the room rather than just like wall of tracks with people on stage playing.
And that's something that I've sort of been trying to figure out myself for a little bit. And yeah, it's like for a while I was doing the traditional subgroup mixing where I have like, this is the kick bus, this is the snare bus, this is my bass bus, and all of the instrument groups, and then doing it because that's like similar to the way that I would be mixing in the studio. But I met this guy. His name is Matt Grabe. He's a phenomenal arena level engineer, and just kind of started picking his brain about the process. And he started talking about mixing in a way that I haven't really thought of before. So I was just like, And then I heard what he was doing, and it was amazing. And I was like, all right, well, I obviously need to like reimagine how I'm doing stuff. You get comfortable with something for a little while, and like, yeah, it works or whatever. But I don't know. I'm always like, it can be better. I know it could always be better, and I'm always trying to figure out what will make it better for me. So yeah, like for me, grouping everything out the way it belongs in the stereo field, and then applying your EQ moves in the way that you would be, to like tastefully enhance the master. So it's like I don't have like true mid side, but I have like a version of it that works for me, and I tend to mix the sides a little bit brighter than I mix the middle. But that's.
It sounds very similar to mastering engineer moves, rather than mix engineer moves. Honestly, even though it is like a kind of a combination of both. It sounds more like you're approaching it from a mastering engineer doing mixed stuff.
It's just, I feel like it's a little bit different when you're talking about fitting all of the tracks into fitting all of the tracks into just like two channels, two outputs or whatever. Versus, I don't even know. It's still the same thing, but what I'm trying to do is to have all of the elements playing together nicely before I even do anything. And all of that is just like input level, making sure it's gain stage, and then making sure that your compressors aren't doing too much or too little, because it's definitely it's easy to overdo sidechain anything all the time. Like, definitely been there. I'm sure most people have.
This massive pumping on the kick
By accident, though,
Yeah. Or the vocal just ducks the entire mix all of a sudden.
Definitely had it where a vocal comes in and my guitar disappeared for a second. Oops.
Yeah. Oh god. And you were like, "Ugh!"
But if you know that's how you're doing it, you kind of know what to look for when something like that happens.
Yeah.
It's like, am I adjusting the sidechain threshold, or do I have to dial back the input gain of the vocal real quick? And you got to keep it exciting somehow. You can't have everything just be perfect all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Hey man, that's live music, baby.
It's showbiz.
That's the industry. That's showbiz, baby. No, but yeah, I mean that's part of the charm of it, right? It's like every room coming in, don't know what's going to happen, making slight tweaks every single day. Just I feel like it is the tweaker head people who really like messing with like pedals and stuff. It's like their dream.
I mean,
because you you can constantly tweak.
It's fair, but also I don't want to constantly tweak. So it's like I'm only
but if you enjoy
yes,
that,
I'm trying to still have fun with the mix, but I'm trying to get to a point where, you know, I can roll up to the show and my brain is just like vocal. Ooh, you know what I mean? Delay, snare bomb, because like that's the stuff that's fun from I mean all of it's fun, but
caveman mix
that's
that's
the stuff that, you know, people in the crowd are gonna be like, damn, you know. And I just wanna I wanna have fun with it. The band's having a great time on stage, you know.
Bass drops,
exactly,
snare bombs,
yes, all of those things,
breakdowns,
mute, not automated, but I'm just gonna you know what I mean. Just give me that silence for a second.
Oh yeah, on this breaks. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Are you oh yeah, so you're punching, are you ever punching mutes on some people's
sometimes stuff? It just depends. Sometimes it's vocals, sometimes it's guitars, sometimes my gates work the way I want them to and I don't have to.
It's just clean.
Yeah, and then sometimes I have to, you know, rip things a little bit louder and adjusting everything like that. It's just easier for me to mute it today. Everything is so dependent on like a day by day. How's the rig? How am I feeling? You know, how are they feeling? How am I feeling?
Yeah.
You know,
for sure. No, so Chris, if people want to come see you rip a gig, this won't be up in time for them to come to the Florida shows, but what that is announced that you can say, can they come?
Yeah, so I have the Beach Weather tour supporting Lovely the band. It's like June 6th to June 28th. It's all over the U.S., so they can do that. If anybody is coming out for Bottle Rock Festival in Napa, I'll be there. And then, yeah, I mean, if you're ever in Atlanta, I'm at home at the Masquerade. And in general, I'm always down to talk about this kind of stuff anyway. So people want to just hit up the Instagram or whatever and say hey and nerd out. That is also fine by me.
Yeah. Chris is notoriously notoriously a nerd when it comes to like nerding out about stuff. I think your handle is chess.wave right now.
And probably will be forever. You can play me in chess.
Yeah, that's a song.
You might win. I'm not that good, but I'm learning.
Chess.wave on Instagram. Go see Chris. Go watch him rip a gig, and buy him a drink or something.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that thing you had on?
Bring the sound guy a White Claw. I had it on my laptop in front of house.
Yeah, bring the sound guy.
And
how many White Claws did you get?
Dude, sometimes it wasn't even White Claws. I remember at that Atlanta show, I got like 8 drinks. I remember there's like another night on that same tour. We were in it was Baltimore. I think it was like the Baltimore Soundstage or something like that. It's a really cool room, and like the merch area was behind front of house, and the bar was also like right behind me. And people saw the sign, and they just asked me what I wanted to drink, and they were buying me shots. And that was, dude, it was wild. They were having a great time. Way too many shots at front of house. I had to give them to my buddy Sam, who was mixing after me on that tour. We were sharing the shots that were brought to front of house.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
what I was gonna say, what? So I think to start landing the plane, what's one of the more either wild or hilarious stories from the road that just make you giggle every time?
Wild or hilarious, man. there are a couple of stories that I would love to tell, but I also value my job.
We can redact
Yeah,
names.
so
We can redact
well,
names.
let me just stick with something that I thought was funny. We were
Okay.
Yeah, we were on this last tour. We stopped at a gas station, and there was just like a couple of birds. We grabbed some gas station snacks, and one of the guys started tossing like little snacks to the couple of birds that we saw like in the parking lot. And then out of nowhere, like every bird from every tree around the area was like in the parking lot by our van, like fighting over snacks. And I thought that was hilarious.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I have
the bird whisperers.
Dude, I have some videos of it. I will send you. It was insane.
Yeah.
Oh,
send
and
it
then
to me.
also there was this time we were like, honestly, we were in Florida. Should come as no surprise. There's this guy who, again, at a gas station. He had a vinyl wrapped van. He was a musician as well. He came over to us. He had like this cowboy hat, this big belt buckle. He's like, yeah, y'all seem like a band. And he was trying to give us tips on how to be successful in the music industry. And like the paraphrased form of the advice that he gave us was to say, fuck the labels, set up a merch booth every night, $1,500 a night guarantee, and you got to sell 7 million copies of your record. And if you can do that, you will make it. This man then proceeded to like pull, he had 2 CDs per pocket in his back pocket. He pulls them out and then he fucking fans them. So man has like 4 CDs and it's like, it's all about the physicals, baby. And then walks away. It was the most bizarre experience of my life. And I have like, I also like recorded like the mouth drop of all of us. Like, did that guy just do that with the CDs? So, you get to meet some very, very interesting people on the road. You know, and honestly, I'm just glad that those are my stories in general. You know, it's like they're goofy things, you know, not what other artists experience, you know.
Yeah. People see wild stuff on the road, and it's not always a good thing. So you get the fact that you've seen mostly wild stuff on the road, and it's been generally pretty good, or hilarious, or just weird.
It's usually just like, this would happen to me type beat.
yeah. I mean that's true. That's actually true. That's factually true. You have the weirdest luck with running into the strangest people.
Dude, yeah. But you know what? It's all good. It's just part of it.
It's just part of it. Well, dude, thanks for chatting poolside with me.
Had a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Listeners, follow Chris. Go see him on tour with Beach Weather. When is that?
June 6th to June 28th.
So go catch Chris mixing front of house for Beach Weather on that Lovely the Band tour. Follow him at chess.wave on Instagram. And hit him up and say what's up, and talk nerdy front of house and mixing stuff.
Talk nerdy to me.
Talk nerdy to me. We will see you guys later.
Take care.
Thanks for joining.